Hi everyone, welcome to your Votes for Schools training video. In the next 25 minutes, we're going to take you through exactly where Votes for Schools has come from, so you've got a real sense of us, the team, and kind of what we want to achieve and what we want to support you with. The second part is I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of the site because there is so much that you can access on there. So I want to really make sure that you guys feel super empowered to know how to access everything, whether you are somebody on the ground who's delivering the sessions, whether you're somebody in SLT who's got accountability or some kind of reporting role. And then the last thing, and the most important thing for us, is I'm going to show you how to log the votes for your students, really kind of capturing that student voice. So logging the votes and seeing the results for your school and how they compare and kind of what we do with the results. So without further ado then, just to give you a little bit of an intro then. So as I mentioned, my name is Kate Harris. I'm actually the founder of Votes for Schools. However, prior to that, I was a secondary school teacher. So although we're talking about primary today, I have very much been a teacher for 14 years. And the last 4 of those, I was a member of the senior leadership team. And the team here, just so you're aware, are all teachers. I find that a really important part of being in Votes for Schools. I feel it's vital that our staff have walked the walk and talked the talk, and really get the pinch points, get those things that we know in schools are tough. You know, it's the reality is that teachers don't have much time, and more is being asked of our teachers. So what we're trying to do is support you in that. So everything we do at Votes for Schools is what I describe as plug and play. So it's designed for you guys to literally pick it up and run with it. And it never assumes you have time, because after all, you can't wee or have a coffee when you're a teacher. And it also never ever assumes knowledge. Because one of the things that we're doing at Votes for Schools is talking to children and young people about current issues, things that are affecting our young people in the here and now. And sometimes as adults, we don't always know what those things are, and we certainly don't know lots and lots of information about it. So as a teacher, the content is designed so you can almost kind of hide behind it. You know, it's really is pop it on the screen and facilitate the session, and you'll have a great Votes for Schools lesson with your students. So that's the backdrop. So in terms of what we were hoping to set out to achieve when we started Votes for Schools is originally we started in secondary because that was my background. And then interestingly, we had lots of primary heads saying, look, we really need something like this in primary. And then later on we had colleges. So we span all sectors of education. And what I find really unique about Votes for Schools is we work in lots and lots of different types of schools. So as an example, we work in Great Ormond Street Hospital School. We also work in like a young youth offending institute. So we really do work across such a broad spectrum. And that is really important to me as the founder, because I believe that every child, regardless of their background, what type of school they go to, whereabouts in the country that they live, I want all of the children to have access to a national conversation and to have a voice about that conversation. So that's the kind of background. So like I said, we work across all the sectors. And there was a couple of things that when I started Votes for Schools was sort of specifically prevalent to me in secondary, but as I now know, do span across. So the number one thing for me was about embedding some sort of consistency when it comes to personal development, PSHE. So it's really about making sure that every child in the school has the same deal. So, and as you will know as teachers, some of you find it incredibly easy to have those difficult conversations, and others of you find that quite difficult, and that's totally okay. And what we're trying to do is create content where it kind of doesn't matter, and actually you can still have those conversations with the children. So that consistency was a really important factor for me. The second thing, which was really quite mind-boggling when we first launched Votes for Schools, is that I wanted to be agile. So we love a long-term scheme of work in schools, and there's absolutely a place for that. But the world is moving so quickly that what I felt that we needed to create something that could respond like super quickly to things that are going on, because our children are exposed to those things, whether that's through the home or whether that's through social media. They are exposed to what's going on. So as educators, we kind of also want to be in the know. So what we do at Votes for Schools is work like a newspaper. So what we're working on this week, you are delivering next week. So it is off, you know, hot off the press, which also means, you know, it's relevant, it's engaging, it's on point for the kids, which is really important, but also it's factually up to date. So, you know, it's as current and factually correct as it can possibly be. So that was the second thing, was that agility idea. And then the last thing for me was about student voice. And I think actually in primary, we do it really well. You guys do it really well in primary. But I wanted to sort of take student voice to a whole new level, which is kind of beyond the school gates. And what I wanted to do was to give every child a voice about things that are going on in the world around them, whether that's their views on things like single-use plastics, or their views on whether they should have more youth centres for young people. Whatever that is, I wanted the sort of ability to capture what they thought about those areas and those subjects, and we could then do something with their voice. So the gorgeous thing about what we do is it's fully inclusive. So every child, every week, is getting a say on the topic that you're talking to them about. And I'm going to show you how to do that a bit later. But so it's fully inclusive student voice, which is absolutely fabulous. And interestingly, it's never, ever been done before, even across the world. So when our children, your children are putting their votes in, or you're putting them in for them, on average, we get sort of 80 to 100,000 votes a week. So you can imagine it's such an insight into our children and young people. And yeah, it's just a really amazing movement, and that our children also have that kind of agency in the world. And I suppose the big dream is to get them to all go and vote and have that kind of toolkit, but also have the confidence to go and do it because they feel that they're heard every week of their school life. Anyway, I hope that's kind of landed the sort of mission element for you, and kind of where we come from. And so the next part that I want to do with you is the site, really. Right, what's happened then is I've logged onto the website and I've come directly to what we describe as the dashboard. Okay, so this is like the main event, if you like. This is the weekly stuff that Votes for Schools is kind of predicated on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this because there's lots of things that you can also access that I want to make sure that you guys know exists. So what I'm going to do is head over here. Everything I can see, you can see. That's really important to mention. It's just a Votes for Schools school that I've set up. So the first thing I'm clicking on, as you can see, is previous vote topics. So we click on that. Now, what you've got here is access to over 200 bundles of lessons. Okay, and each one of those lessons contains an assembly, a key stage 1 and a key stage 2. Okay, now they are brilliant for any kind of emergency sort of cover lessons that you maybe have run out of time and you know you need something that's really quick and easy to run with. They're also really good for responding to pastoral issues that you are finding are coming up within the school. So let's say, for example, you find that in year 6 there is suddenly some homophobic language being used. Always, if it's anything pastoral, PSHE based, personal development, SMSC, British values, prevent, controversial, difficult to talk about, the chances are we will have done it. So if you have those incidents in schools, please always think about Votes for Schools, because please don't reinvent the wheel. You don't have time, and there's loads of stuff that you can use. Okay, so it's really good for that, and good for little drop down days, those types of things. So as you can see, you can search by keyword. You can also search by theme, so they're kind of tagged. So for those of you who have responsibility for PSHE, loads of PSHE content, and it's tagged in terms of its curriculum links. It's also tagged in terms of British values, SMSC. You'll also see that there are 9 themes here, and all of the content is also tagged dependent on what theme it falls into. Now, the 9 themes are our Votes for Schools themes that we give equal weighting to across the school year. And the reason for that is, I mean, if you just look at those 9 for a second, what you can see is that it means we have a huge and broad, diverse sort of content that we talk to children about. So 1 week we are talking about, you know, ghosting or relationships, and the next week we're talking about single-use plastics, and the week after we're talking about AI. So the idea is that it keeps them, you know, excited, and also makes it more interesting, I think, for you guys as teachers. So you can also search by those themes. Next thing to show you then is the additional packs. So pretty much does what it says on the tin, but what you've got here, everything that turns red takes you to a new page with lots and lots of resources. Okay, so what you've got here is 3 additional PSHE packs. They are separate to the weekly stuff that we do. And they're sort of 40-minute lessons, and they are designed to be slightly more hard-hitting. So from a PSHE perspective, they are the sort of content that you probably want to build in and know when you're going to deliver, and B, probably have had that conversation with parents and carers. But PSHE tough topics are hard to get some really sound resources on. So they're there for you to use whenever you want to, and they're constantly being added to. Okay, so please feel that you can utilize them. Next thing is display materials. Primary schools just are brilliant at displays. Don't spend ages doing it. Every single one of our assets are icons. There's bunting. There's everything you can imagine to make some amazing displays, or stuff for TV screens, stuff for your school website. It's all in there for you. And then you've also got here more assemblies, because who doesn't love a sort of emergency assembly up their sleeve? So lots and lots of resources for you to use. Now, you've also got here your curriculum information, which it's brought me to really nicely anyway. Just a couple of things to talk to you about here. So when it comes to Votes for Schools, we work within England, we also work in Scotland, and we work in Wales. So there's areas of the curriculum that are very similar across those 3 areas. So how we meet those particular areas, we have written a gorgeous document about, so that you don't have to. So, and just to sort of put that into context for you, quite often you'll know if you buy a product for a school, you have to almost write the narrative. So it's kind of like, I bought this because it's helping me deliver on X, Y, Z. So we've done all of that for you. So how does Votes for Schools make sure that you deliver, you know, quality and consistently, SMSC, British values, prevent, etc. So we've got this overview of exactly how we do it. Now, every week, the lessons are also mapped, so they're mapped weekly. So what specific areas of those curriculum have been met that week through the Votes for Schools session. And then you also, over here, you get an overview at the end of every term. And in fact, from September 25, it is going to be every half term. So at the end of every half term, you will get an alert that tells you your new curriculum overview is there. It gives you a really nice retrospective look of everything you've talked about and all the curriculum areas that have been covered. So it's mapped weekly, it's then mapped half-termly, and then you've also got that overview of exactly how we do it. Again, it's kind of based on the fact that we don't want you to spend any time, you know. The last thing to show you on here that's really good is we've written our own inspection guidance and our own commentary. So regardless of who you're inspected by, depending on your school or whereabouts you are in the UK, we've written our own commentary. So nearly all of you will have to create your own self-evaluation when you're ready to be inspected. And we have written it all for you. So under there's a whole commentary, so you can almost just copy paste it into your school SEV, and it's just how Votes for Schools supports obviously super effective delivery of personal development, teaching and learning, leadership and management, etc. So again, copy paste, saving you time is the kind of ethos we're going for. So that's your curriculum stuff. Now, last thing to show you before I sort of head back to the dashboard and the main event is the handbook. Just think, when I say handbook, think everything you need to roll it out. So there's always useful stuff in here for everybody. Just a couple of things again to highlight for you. Here is the calendar. It runs obviously from September through to July next year. So it's your academic year calendar. And what it does is it identifies for you each week, whether it's a current affairs topic, whether there's a particular theme that we're doing that week, or whether we have a pre-planned topic. So when I say pre-planned, what I mean is the stuff that you guys will want to talk about. So the anti-bullying week, the Black History Month, the LGBTQ plus awareness, mental health, Day of Disability, safer internet. We do all of those for you. So you don't have to worry. They're also going to be delivered. You won't know the question before time. You'll just know that we're doing it. But what you will know is the content is brilliant and it's pick up and go, because I'm going to show you what it looks like anyway in just a moment. But also you'll know that it's current and it's relevant. So we don't sort of regurgitate the same old. We want to, you know, we're looking at bullying. We're looking at stuff that's relevant in the here and now. So what is affecting our children and young people, not necessarily stuff that we were talking about 10 years ago. So you also know it's up to date. And then, yeah, you've got introductory lessons. You've even got here, just down here, information for parents and carers. So you can send that out before you even start. So you've really got them on board. You've also, if you notice, there's lots of policy guidance here. Now, anything that comes from the Department for Education or through legislation that needs to be delivered in schools that kind of fits under that personal development umbrella, like oracy, political impartiality, safeguarding, we will have written our own commentary for you and our own guidance. So these are the things that are out there at the minute, so you can see those really clearly. Please use them. Anything that's new on the horizon, on the landscape, if it affects what we do and therefore affects you, we'll write our own guidance for you. So just sort of give us a couple of weeks and it will be in there. So that's your handbook. So at this point, I'm going to go back to the dashboard, which is the main event. So let's just pop ourselves back onto the dashboard. And now I'm going to talk to you about the weekly stuff. Okay, so when we talk about the weekly stuff, there's just one key thing that I really want you all to remember, and that is Friday 4 p.m. Okay, so what happens on a Friday at 4 p.m. is this will automatically change for you. Okay, so when you log on a Tuesday, hypothetically, what you see is the one that you are talking about that week. Okay, unless your lead teacher tells you otherwise, that is the one that you're doing. Okay, and it's the one that everyone is doing across the nation. So it's kind of the national conversation, if you like. So Friday at 4 p.m. it automatically changes again so that you can teach it the following week. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to access the resources, and then I'm going to show you how to log the vote and then how to see your results. Okay, so first of all, if I just show you down here, it says view vote pack. I want you to think lesson pack. Okay, we just call it the vote pack because we want to feel like it's slightly different. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the vote pack, and it's taking me exactly to the resources that I've got for this week. Okay, so I've got an assembly, which is a gorgeous way of kick-starting the conversation as a whole school. So you've kind of got that really cohesive feel. The assemblies also have a big focus on the impact that the children are making. So in the assemblies, we use that space not only to launch the topic, but to talk about the difference that they're making in the wider world. So if there's feedback for them, and the feedback can be like, we've had some brilliant feedback. We've had Rio Ferdinand, we've had Simon Calder, the travel expert, we've had TikTok influencers. So we always try and demonstrate to the students that they are getting that feedback, because that's the empowering bit, and that's the bit that's really reinforcing that their voice is important. You've then got your 5 to 7, so your sort of key stage 1 lesson, and then your 7 to 11 lesson. You've also got a data report. Now this data report is, there's always a data report on there, and it's always from the topic that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Okay, so again, it's the sort of thing, it's just a one-pager. It's the sort of thing you might want to put on your website, you might want to share with parents and carers, and it's just showing that your children in your school have contributed to that overall report. So I just also want to show you, if I scroll down here before I click on the lessons, I mentioned earlier that we map the resources every week in terms of their curriculum areas. So it's just down here. So the areas of SMSC, British values, prevent, different areas of the Shannari wellbeing indicators, the different parts of the Welsh curriculum, they're all down here for you. Okay, so they're built into the system. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a lesson. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the 7 to 11. So what we're going to do is open this up. So we've got the lesson, as you can see straight away, it's PowerPoint. We are true believers in keeping things really simple, because we know, like I said, probably 1,000 times, you guys don't have time. So what we're going to do is you're going to create the slideshow, and I'm just going to do that and show you what the content looks like, because there's a couple of things that I do want to mention as I'm doing it. So you've got the lesson. All I'm doing is clicking using the cursors. So we've got the question. So we're asking for Key Stage 2, would you feel comfortable having a conversation about your mental health? The question is always quite different in Key Stage 1, but it's always the same theme, because we wanted to create that sense of continuity, but we're very aware that it needs to be super age appropriate. So it is the same, but it's pedagogically different, obviously, because of the age gap. And then all I'm doing is clicking. So every activity, everything that's coming up on the screen, it's doing itself automatically. Activities that are built in, the timings, how many people need to be involved, it's all there for you. Keywords, literally everything. And all I'm doing is clicking. Just to say, if there's any videos that are in the content, they run through a system called Safe Share TV. So you click on them and then they start and end when they need to start and end. It's super slick. It looks brilliant. No adverts, etc. It's just really lovely. Everything that we do, as you can imagine, as teachers, goes through a quality check. So not only are we looking for the copy and the grammar, etc., but we also double check political impartiality. So we're making sure that when we're asking children these questions, that we're putting equal weighting to either side of the debate and the discussion, because that's a really important part of developing their critical thinking and their oracy, etc. So I'm just flicking through. The other check that the content goes through is a equality, diversity and inclusion check. So every part of our imagery is representative of the world in which we live in. So we will see two mums, two dads, you know, children, adults from different walks of life, and we believe that exposure is really, really important to our children. So just getting through it then, so you can see, obviously I'm clicking through it dead quickly, lots of different types of activities that they can get involved in. Let's just keep going. I want to get to the end because I do want to show you how it ends. Okay, here we go. So it ends the same way as it starts. So you've always got that kickoff question, starting point, and then the end is always the same, which is, look, we've talked about having a conversation about your mental health. If you want to vote yes, these were the 3 areas we looked at, and no, these were the 3 areas we looked at. So it's at this point that you want the children to decide, are they going to vote yes or no? And just to mention, probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, it's always a yes or no. So it's the same every week. So what happens now is you need to come out and you need to head on back to the website. Okay, so I'm going to head on back over here, which, as you remember, looks familiar because we clicked on view vote pack to get here. Now you do need to go back to the dashboard at this point. So if we just click on the dashboard, this is now starting to look super familiar. Yeah, now over here you scroll down, all right, and what you'll see as it appears is it says vote now. Okay, and this is where you're going to input the vote. So it's on the main page. You just scroll down. Now, how you choose to take the vote, up to you. We've got ballot boxes. Your lead teacher can give me a shout and I can send 100 of them to you. Equally, you can keep it simple. You could have them on whiteboards, or you could have heads down, hands up. I think the key for me, especially as the children get older, is this sense of voting should really be anonymised. And also we want children to come up with their own decisions rather than kind of feel like they're influenced by their peers. So I want you to imagine you've taken the lesson. So then what we're going to do is we're going to pick the lesson. So this was the one we taught. And then we're going to pick the year group. So I'm going to say I taught year 5. And then I'm going to pick my class. Now here, your classes will appear as you know them. So it could be Eagles class, green class, whatever that looks like. And we make sure they're set up for you, ready to go. So you select your class. So let's say I was 5A. And then all I'm doing is popping the results in. So I'm going to say 11 girls said yes. And then I'm pressing tab and I'm jumping across. 6 said no. I'm going to say 9 said yes. And I'm going to say 9 said no, and then I'm going to say, oh, I forgot to mention diverse. This is where any child that doesn't wish to disclose their gender identity or is gender neutral, they can have their voice heard there, okay? And you will know who those are if there are any within your school. And then I'm just going to say one there so we can see what that looks like. And then what we do is if we scroll down, what you'll see is it's starting to pull my vote in live time. So in terms of the children, there's instant gratification. Now, what it wants you to do, and this is important, is to click continue, and it wants you to double check you're really happy with your results. So this is what you put in. And here you've got a box. This box is designed for that student or a couple of students that said something really brilliant about the topic this week that you would like to put in there. And that's how sometimes we feature schools in the assembly when we talk about the topic. Previously, we feature different schools and different comments. We also write reports every week for government, for Barnardo's, Save the Children. And if we write a report, so for example, looking at this one about mental health, we might put together a report for our partner's place to be. At the end of the report, there will always be a lot of comments from the children. So I always say, if you have time, please do put something in there because it could make it to a report as well. And we obviously always highlight the schools that have participated in those reports as well. So it's like real student voice. And then you just click submit. And straight away, you've come to your results page. Okay, now before I show you that, because it's automatically brought us here because I've inputted the vote. If you go back to the dashboard, again, the main event, if you get lost, that's where you go. You can also find the results here by clicking view results. And as you can see, it's taken me to the same place. Now, I just want to show you what this looks like. So you've got your results. So, and you can have these as gorgeous displays as well. So you've got how your schools voted, how they compare to other schools in the region in primary level and how they compare to the national. Then here you've got different ways of comparing. So you can have year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you could just have different classes and you can start to compare how they've voted against each other. And all of these, once you've created them, are downloadable as images. So again, you can have some really lovely displays. Same thing for your gender. All of these are available for you to have as displays and printouts. And then you've got your participation figures. Okay, so here you've got your voting by year group. So who's voted across the year groups, and then you've got the classes listed. Now, this isn't an admin, right? Everybody can see the results, and the reason that we like to list them is because we obviously want to help that person who's helping run the program. We want to make sure that they can check that there is consistency, and also it's important, isn't it? We're asking children or we're trying to develop student voice, that we obviously have their group in there. And then last but by no means least, you've got those areas, those curriculum areas are also on your results page, okay? And then down here, you can even download your raw results if you wanted to use them in another subject area like numeracy, maths, you could use them. So this page is perfect for your governors and for your inspectors. You've got your results, you've got your curriculum map, you've got your participation figures, you've got your results, you can see how they compare, you've got what you talked about, when you talked about it, and a description. And all that happens on a Friday at 4 p.m. is it becomes the top of your previous vote topics, and you can go and view your results, look at the content at any time. So everything is stored for you. And that, ladies and gents, is absolutely everything. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to just say that I hope that's been really, really useful for you. I hope that you've got a real sense of where we come from, how it all works, how super easy it is. And I look forward to hearing how you've got on with your Votes for Schools sessions. But anyway, lovely to meet you. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.